ever. Okay.
All right. We are here having a good time, laughing already. But today I'm so excited because I'm chatting with Nubia and Francis. I almost said Francis first. I was looking at you. But anyway, because you guys just got back from India, and obviously I traveled there a lot, but you didn't have the best time. Now, before we get into all the details, I just want to start with a little disclaimer, because I have like a lot of Indian followers and friends and subscribers, and this isn't about, you know, bashing. This is the experience that they had, and it's of course not reflective of the Indian experience in general. And what I'm hoping is that from this video, people can learn what not to do. You know, some things went wrong, or you can give some tips. And so anyway, this is going to be a very constructive but fun conversation. Because, I don't know, isn't it kind of funny to hear sometimes when people have experiences that go a little bit left?
Yeah. Well, the thing about it is, you know, I was saying this in my own personal experiences, that we could have reached out to you, let's say. Tapping into your network would have been a huge assistance. And I don't think that we were fully prepared because we didn't take the time out to research as much as we should have.
We're here in Thailand right now, by the way, just to let everyone know. We know each other from being like travelers and stuff like that. But yes, you didn't let me know you were planning to go to India.
Yeah, I think, you know, you get so used when you travel a lot, I think you lose some of the humility of, you know, taking the extra steps, extra precaution. And we were like, oh, we can just wing it and we'll book things when we get there and I believe that India is not a place where you can wing it. It's not a place where you can't just not book things in advance, because just the whole internet system is different. Everything is different. So we made a lot of mistakes.
And, you know, I tend actually to not book a lot in advance when I go to India, but there's still like little cheats and ways to navigate, and like things like trains, you know, are things that like you need to book in advance because it can be a little bit tricky. But like, I don't even know where to start with you two. We have had, like, I've had a full debriefing, you know, before this on everything that happened. But I guess let's just start by saying your itinerary.
Yes.
So you started in Chennai.
So we flew into Chennai from Bangkok. And from Chennai, we were there for 3 nights.
3 days, 2 nights?
3 days, 2 nights in Chennai. And the goal was to go to
the Taj
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That was why we were in India. We had a 2-week itinerary initially, but then we realized, you know, it was just too much to pack in for 2 weeks.
Too ambitious.
Way too ambitious.
India's huge, and you were initially planning to see the South, see Kerala, go to Agra.
Just do the whole coastal line.
Yeah.
And then end up in Agra. So Jaipur was never on the list.
Right. Until the last minute. Yeah. So, yeah, so we started off in Chennai. The great thing about it is, when I said that I didn't tap into my network, that's not wholeheartedly true. We did know somebody who lived in India for about a year, and she is an African-American woman, and she's a little younger, so she introduced us to her friends, 3 of them, who lived in the Chennai area, which was great, because once we got there, we immediately had him reach out to us, and he was just like, hey, where are you? Let's get together. And, you know, and without him, I don't think we would have enjoyed Chennai as much as we did. You know, he took us to a nightclub, he took us to just random places to eat, things like that. So that was actually kind of cool.
But now, when would you say your trip first started to go bad?
Jaipur.
Jaipur. Yeah, when we headed north to Jaipur.
Day 4.
Yeah, and we understand, we don't mind chaos. You know, we visited a lot of cities that are pretty chaotic. We don't mind any of that. But the minute we landed in Jaipur, it was just like, wow.
Yeah.
Okay. And so after that, you know, we ended up meeting somebody there, tuk-tuk driver, nice guy. But we know how it works with the scamming and
rickshaw
luring.
scams.
We got it, you know, but we're fine because we're here. When we travel, we try our best to support local businesses and people who are, you know, trying to make a living.
Yeah.
So we have no problem with that. You know, we have no problem negotiating a fair rate to do what we need to do.
But ultimately, you feel like you were kind of scammed by the rickshaw.
Well, before that, let's rewind back it up just a little bit. So as you can see, I'm dark, right? I'm dark with no hair.
Yeah.
She's a little lighter with long locks. There was not one point when we were in the north that we felt invisible. We were totally visible. We were probably the only foreigners that I seen for like the first day or two.
Now you see, this is why I think prep comes in handy.
Mm-hmm.
Because for those of you who don't know, I do have a course on Udemy that's all about prep for India. And I recommend it, not just because it's my course and, you know, I'm biased, which I am, but because we talk about some of these things. And one thing I say in the course, which I've said in videos, I'm going to say it again now, India is filled with Indians. Okay, like it sounds stupid, it sounds obvious, but like you have to really internalize that and what that means, because what it means is that if you are not Indian, you need to expect some stares and be prepared and have a strategy even going in with how to handle that.
Yeah, but the stares is one thing.
With the stares, you know,
because we live in
it was a
Thailand,
different
right?
kind of stare.
How did you feel about this stare versus a Thai stare?
Well, the very first thing is that India, the men to women ratio was outstanding.
Oh, it seemed to be outstanding.
It seemed.
It's true that when you're in Rajasthan, walking down the street, a lot of the women are like at home or somewhere else. They're not running businesses. They're not driving rickshaws. They're not running shops.
They're not visible.
They're not visible, right? Unless you're at a market.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of the time.
So that automatically didn't make us feel the most comfortable, because here we are, two African American females walking the streets alone, right? Totally visible, everybody. I don't care if they were on a motorbike, a rickshaw, in a car, on the bus. Everybody was just like, you know.
But did it feel like a hostel? Because I've been alone. I've been alone walking.
You know what?
I know for me, it was one of those stares. They were staring inside out kind of stare. Like the Thai folks, they'll look at you and they're like,
out of curiosity.
And then it's
just
done.
like,
okay?
Yeah.
But the Indian men, they stared at you like this, okay? You know, and looked up and down, and I felt like I was being a little bit violated by their stares.
Now, I'm going to be honest. When she said this and she gave me the look, I know what you mean, right? That it's an intense look. But see, I think I don't process that as being a negative, to be honest, just my perception of it. I feel like they're very unashamed with their looking. Like, it's a sincere stare.
But it's different if it's one or two people, Roman. When it's like 100 people looking at you,
I know. I've been there.
It becomes very, you know, intrusive. You understand what I'm saying? And even if you smile, even if you try to say hello, then it just becomes more. And then you can't speak to one person without 16 other coming, you know, into your personal space.
All right, I'm going to share an experience I've never shared before. This is my first time ever being in India. Mm-hmm. And our bus stopped on the side of the road. I don't know where we were. I took the bus from Nepal to India, which I don't recommend, by the way, because it's a crazy long ride. But I took the bus from Nepal to India. Mm-hmm. Bus stopped on the side of the road because of traffic. We were there for hours. And I got out at one point, and people were looking. And I started talking to one guy who was Indian, and literally a crowd of maybe about 20 guys came around and were just watching our conversation. I don't even know if everyone spoke English or even understood, but it was literally a crowd of people just watching us talk. And I was thinking, this is fascinating, right? Like, but it didn't strike me as problematic. It was during the day. I felt very safe, you know, but it prepared me, I think, in a way that, like, okay, I am a little bit of a show. Yeah. Sometimes. But it didn't feel hostile to me.
Well, it felt hostile to me because there were a lot of, you know, like especially the young boys, right? Mm-hmm. They seemed very ignorant to the fact that we were just women travelers, female travelers, just kind of trying to enjoy ourselves. It was not enjoyable when you have people, you know, staring into your entire being, number one, pointing and laughing and making reference to, all you can hear them say is, ha ha ha, Africa, African. And, you know, it got to the point, and we talked about this, where it was just like, I'm not African, I'm American. And then it was just like, but wait a minute, why do I feel like I have to justify where I'm from for you to give me even the littlest bit of respect? Because then once you say it was American, then it was like, oh, America, Obama, you know, whatever. Right. And it just felt like, how dare you? You know, everything inside of me wanted to scream, it's not okay. You know, in America, we're taught not to stare, right? As a child. Stop staring, that's not nice, you know, stuff like that. So I understand different cultures because we live in Thailand, we live in a homogenous, and we live in Asia. So it's not like we walk around with a chip on our shoulder and be like, what are you looking at?
Right.
No, not at all. We are totally culturally competent. But this was on a whole different level. And it's hard to explain. And I was saying to Francis, if I could have, you know, a camera in my lenses just for people to see what I saw or how to see through my eyes, it's easier for you to do that than for me to explain it, because it made me feel uncomfortable. Nothing about India made me feel comfortable or safe, for that matter.
But when you say you didn't feel safe, what did you think would happen?
Well, first off, let's just talk about, you know, the fact that 90% of India are arranged marriages, right? And it's not like...
You thought you were going to leave there with a husband?
No.
No.
It ain't like they're happy with it. They're not happy. Everybody looked unhappy, number one. Number two is, like she said, you're looked at as if you almost looked like, I don't know, they're fantasizing or looking at what, you know...
Fetishizing.
And that could be... It's hard to explain.
And we can't, because we don't know what these people are thinking, feeling,
yeah.
so it's hard to make a blanket statement. I think what I was not prepared for, the men to women ratio. I wish I did a little bit more research about that, because had I known that beforehand, I would not have been so caught off guard when I arrived there. That to me was huge information as a woman.
I can understand that.
I mean,
that's different regionally too. So like I felt more of that when I was in the north in Rajasthan. There are times when I noticed like, oh, I'm the only woman on the street, you know.
Yeah.
You do see more women out and about in different places in the south sometimes. It varies, you know. But
it's hard to explain, you know. I mean, I personally, like I said, being a dark-skinned woman, you know, with short hair, I get stares everywhere I go. You know what I'm saying? Even in America, you know, because, I mean, people just are just naturally curious.
Right.
That's fine. I just think there was a level to it that was just beyond, because it's not just a few people, it's everyone. You know, it's everyone. So it's like, you know, I almost felt like I was paraded through the streets like what is that called? A freak show, almost. That's how it felt.
Oh, it makes me so sad to hear, right? Because, like, I love going to India, you know, and I love it there. But I do think it's important for people to be able to have conversations and to validate each other's experiences, because not everyone that goes to India does love it. Not everyone that goes to India hates it or dislikes it. But I think it's important to be able to talk about our feelings, what happened, and so that also people can know going in, like, this isn't about, like, don't go to India, right?
No, not at all.
But it is about, okay, these are experiences that people are having. And so if you do go, I mean, because, of course, like, I get stares a lot of the time. But sometimes, even when I'm on local buses, I feel like people withdraw in a way. It's like, oh, you know, so that opposite is also there. But I guess in my travels, I don't know, I'm too busy eating like curry and stuff. I can't notice.
It was just a lot.
I think there's stages to India.
Yeah.
You know, you have that initial shock.
You're right.
And then...
And you guys got out pretty fast, by the way. They like got in, got traumatized, and left.
Immediately.
Yeah. And so, and we needed that space. And we couldn't find that space. Because in some places, when you go to, you may have an initial shock, but then you could take a breather somewhere to kind of just reassess what's going on.
And you guys didn't go to any of those calming places.
Yeah, and there was no places that we knew of where, you know, we could have that, you know, just...
Let me do an interlude for those of you who might be watching and you're thinking, where are the calm places? Where? Okay. For starters, Kerala is quite chill. I love Varkala. I love the cliffs and the beaches there are really nice. In the north, Rishikesh is nice, but it's not as chill as it used to be really honest. Like, it's getting a little bit chaotic, but it's the yoga capital. You know, there are places. Goa, I hear, is chill. I'm going there. I don't know. Maybe I'll be there this time next month. But I'm going there soon, so I can't say more about it. But, like, you guys went to Jaipur, which is a major city.
Went to Agra.
You went to Agra, which is obviously filled with people. That's where the Taj Mahal is. You had a nice experience starting out in Chennai,
and I think that was because
you
a local,
right?
And I have to say that because Chennai to us wasn't as walkable as Jaipur.
Right.
So, you know, we didn't really do a lot of walking on the street. We were literally from the hotel into a taxi or tuk-tuk to where we went.
Yeah.
Right. We did walk maybe a short distance at some marketplace, which was easy. It wasn't really difficult. It wasn't bad. So we did have a pleasant experience in Chennai, and we feel like the food in the South are better. We had this whole debate.
We did have a debate about what's better. See, I don't want to take sides. I like both. I love the food in the North.
We love the food in the South.
Yeah,
like,
the South.
absolutely, hands down, love the food in the South. But
Like
our
rajma. I don't know.
our experience was a little different, you know, in the South, and we only had 3 days of that.
Right.
You know, we spent 4 days in the North. You know, we were pretty much on an open schedule, so we didn't have a return flight. The goal was to go to Sri Lanka.
They booked them pretty fast, though.
Very fast, very fast. The goal was to leave India and go to Sri Lanka. But it was like, you know what, let's spend time in India. If we really do enjoy it, maybe we'll go to a different place. Maybe we'll check out Mumbai or Goa or Kerala, whatever. We was kind of open. And just to go to the store was a chore. You know, I caught people trying to touch her hair. You know what I'm saying? And that's fine to a certain extent. But even when, you know, we went to the train station, that's when I almost lost it.
Yeah,
I
so
think the train
we made
station
a
is where
big
I lost
mistake on the train. We should have reserved our cart.
Mm-hmm.
But I think because when you're in
Yeah.
a frustrated state, sometimes you can't always think so clearly, and when you're ready to kind of rush off to the next thing.
Yeah.
So part of that is to take a step back and, you know, just keep your composure.
It's true. When you make decisions out of a state of panic, right? Like, I gotta get out, let me book a train, in the train. Then you wind up
What we
on a
did.
not so great train.
Yeah, the
Well,
train.
we were having an issue trying to even book online. So we was like, oh, we'll just go to the train station, get a ticket.
Ooh.
Oh my God.
All right.
Worst
See?
mistake.
Right. No,
It was really- yeah.
I've been to India so many times, and booking at a train station sounds logical and it
It's-
sounds simple.
It's
But
not.
like, it's
It's
not.
I had to get a police
chaos.
officer involved.
It's chaos.
I was the only woman in the line of men. And that's another thing. Everything is woman and men. It's very segregated. So,
That's almost better. I've been to places where the male-female isn't segregated and everyone has to
but we
fight
didn't
to
know
the
this,
front.
right? So, again, that's a shock, right? Because, you know, culturally, as a Black American culture, you know, you have to deal with, you know, segregation and civil rights and stuff. So we're, you know, I mean, I don't know, maybe I went into India thinking that I was going to be, and I was surrounded by people who had all shades of Black like myself. So I was actually very happy with leaving Thailand for a little bit and seeing people that look same. So to get there and they literally not embrace that, because to them you are just so foreign that, you know what I mean? It was
You're not
hard.
Indian.
You're not
No,
Indian.
and they're brown, and there are all shades of brown
All
in
shades
India.
of brown.
But I would tell you, so one time I was in India, and I saw like this baby. Baby couldn't have been more than 6 months old, and this baby was looking at me like this.
Like, who are you?
So shocked, and I was thinking, do I really look that different?
As a baby, huh?
Even the 6-month-old baby cannot take his eyes off of me. I didn't think I looked that different, but clearly I did.
And that's the thing. I didn't think I looked like different. I mean,
But
I could have
you
put my
did.
arm up to somebody and we would be the same exact shade
But you
of
know,
Black.
I really, it's not the, and see, some people think they're very color sensitive and that's what it is. But I know that colorism exists in India because people keep telling me. But I don't think that's what it is that we're experiencing. I think it's that our noses are different, our ears are different, our hair is different. Like, it's just different. And, you know, like, I know of white people that get stared at in India as well, white foreigners. But, of course, white foreigners are viewed differently in the media.
Yeah.
But some of that, I think we as Black people need to take ownership for, because who's acting in the terrible movies that make us look crazy? You know, who's acting, who's performing in these terrible TV shows that make us look stupid?
I don't even know if
world?
they see that stuff, because I mean, half the places that, you know, we were invited into a home and everything, and it's not like TV was like the biggest thing, right? It's like, yeah, they have their phones, you play games and all of that. I just don't think we were prepared for it, A. B, there is a caste system in India where color does matter to them. You know what I mean? The darker you are, the less likely you're viewed as being beautiful. And that's the truth, you know, and we've spoke to Indians who have said that.
Absolutely. I know, listen, filters are huge, you know, like there are lightning filters that
But that's
people use
same
on their
in
phones.
Asia,
Yes,
right?
Asia.
We're
Right,
used
right.
to that. So
Right.
again, it's some things that we were just like, okay, that's just Asia. We've been in Asia now over a year, so we're accustomed to some of the same, you know, situations. India was on.
It's just
It's a whole different.
It's a different world.
It's a different
It really
world.
is, you know?
It really is.
when I was like, okay, let's go to India, I had zero expectations. But even with not having zero expectations, it was a sensory overload, which we've
Yeah.
heard it was, but there's a difference between reading and talking about it to actually physically experiencing it, because you're not going to know how you're going to respond to all of that all at once.
But what did you find to be the most overwhelming part?
I think the most overwhelming part for me was the stairs. It was I had a woman literally go out of her way to touch my hair. When I tell you go out of her way, I passed by her and I saw her staring. I was like, it's all good. So I went in line waiting and everything. And she was way back there talking to somebody and everything else. And then she came around to the front where I was trying to fight through the ticket gate. And she was just like, doing all this. And I was like,
See, next time you could really embrace it. See, my idea is you could set up a line and like start making some money.
I said that. Okay, when we're at the Taj Mahal.
I would charge people. I'd be like 50 rupees and then you get to touch.
Exactly. When we were at the Taj Mahal, it was a quick tour, but we spent almost 45 minutes taking photos with people who...
20 rupees per photo.
So I did that. I was like, 10 rupees. And they started laughing. I was like, I'm serious. Where's my rupees at? So we laughed about it and joked about it. I get that a lot. So I don't mind. If you ask, it does get a little frustrating when people just kind of like pull at your hair.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't get upset about it at all.
But that was the first time I think people actually talked to us.
At the Taj.
At the Taj.
Yeah.
And that was at the last day of our trip.
Yeah.
So think about that. You get what I'm saying? We done spent 6 days here. Not one local person really wanted to have conversation with us unless they were trying to get us to buy something from them.
Right.
That's the only way.
By the way, to be fair, did you try to engage anybody in a conversation?
It was, the funny thing about it is, like I said, the South was cool. We had a great time. We had video. We had conversations. Mm-hmm. We went partying. We went to dinner. Like, we hung out with locals, which was great. I don't know, had we not already met up with a local, had, the experience would have been the same. I don't know. So I can't say that. Even when we got to Jaipur, the tuk-tuk driver that we met him all within the first hour.
Okay.
And he took us around. He's a local. He invited us into his house, this and the other. It didn't change the dynamic, not one way, shape, or form. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, it was about the dollar. It was about the rupee. It seemed like everything was about money. It wasn't about really trying to get to know who you are, getting to understand your culture, or even wanting to embrace the fact that we were of another culture. It was like,
it was just a story.
It was always a story. It was always, my kids, my wife, my this, my that, money, money, money. And that's fine. Again, we have traveled enough to have been able to understand a lot of that culture. I wasn't prepared for India. I just gotta say that. It's sensory overload times 10.
And I think that's important to acknowledge, right? Like, I think, and you're right, when you started out in the beginning, you said, like, it's important to be humble as a traveler.
Yeah.
Did you start?
I started part 2.
All right.
Sorry. But no, let's take it from the travel prep thing,
There wasn't much. I can honestly say, so we have our podcast, so we had a lot going on prior to leaving. And it was like last minute we got our visa for Sri Lanka. Last minute we got our visa for India. We did everything such last minute because we were doing 50 million other things at first.
Right.
That's no excuse.
Yeah.
We're too laissez-faire.
Yeah. You were just like, roll up to India.
And if we want to leave, we'll just leave and go somewhere else. That's how we felt. We were
just a little too arrogant, I guess, in a say. But,
I think we were flexible.
Was it flexible?
I think you just had an expectation. You're like, we travel. We travel around Thailand. We travel around Asia.
If we don't like it, we'll leave. Like, that's how I felt. Like,
and that's what you did.
That's what we did.
To be fair.
Yeah.
But I do think India is its own sort of thing. The closest culture is the closest country, right? Which is like Nepal, right there. Obviously, they border each other. But even Nepal is different, than India. And I do think it's like, if you're going to go to India, I've met travelers who just show up and they're fine, no prep needed. But for me, I know I had to ease myself into it. I had to do Thailand first. I had to do Nepal first. And like, I had to read about scams and like do that prep. And it's important,
Yeah. I mean, I really do feel like had we done a little bit of prep, maybe watched your video, did your Udemy class, we would have saved a lot more time. And it's not even a plug, y'all. Like, seriously. That's like me, don't get me wrong. Like, when I say that, people did comment on my Facebook and was like, check this place out, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
But it was funny because once we started really talking about our experience, that's when people were like, me too. Yes, it was my word. And it was just like, well, y'all wasn't saying that before we got there.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
had some of these stories come out and we heard a lot more of the experiences,
Right.
real life, because again, yes, like you did your disclaimer, you know, we have to be sensitive to everyone, right?
Yeah.
Because we're all in media in some way, shape, or form. And this is not to bash India in any
Absolutely
way,
not.
shape or form. However, I am going to exercise my right to be able to, you know, tell you my real experience. And when
And I
I
think
go
that's
back,
fair.
and
You
that's
should-
fair,
yeah.
yeah, and that's how I felt, you know. And I just really don't know if I would go back to India knowing all this. But I will say this: we did an experiment. One day I wore a scarf,
And then I put my hair up.
and she wore her hair up.
Different.
It was a lot
A little bit
different.
Mm-hmm.
Not as many stairs. People were able to walk by without really noticing us so much.
Mm-hmm.
And if they did, they were like, you know, like almost got close to being invisible. There's something about being invisible that is empowering in a way. It's like I can navigate a city without feeling like, you know, I'm being looked down upon or whatever. And I think that's what it was, is to a certain point, it almost felt like we were looked down upon to a certain extent when people were pointing and, you know, oh, look. It's not comfortable. And as a culture, they don't know that. You know what I'm saying? That it can make somebody feel a certain kind of way.
Right. 'Cause they don't live in that reality.
They don't live in that.
You know, they don't live, like, for them, it's okay. Like, we were told as children, don't stare, don't do this, don't do this.
Point, don't do that.
Right, but
yeah,
it's different, right?
It's just a different culture.
It's because some people say, oh, they're rude. And it's like, they're not rude. You know, it's just different. You know, it's different expectations, different norms.
Yeah, but even, you know, when we was at the train station, that's when it was kind of like really hovering. And I really felt like I wanted to just like turn invisible. I wanted to wrap myself up, and I just wanted people to stop staring at me. I just was, it was to the point where I was almost broke. You get what I mean? And nobody did something per se to break me. You know, they're all doing it at the same time. So it's the massive amount of numbers of people, just everything going on, the sounds, you know, India is very noisy. Noisiest place,
at least the major cities.
I've ever
No,
been
if you
to.
watch some of my videos, it's loud.
It's loud. You
Yeah.
know, the honking of the horn, the yelling, the this and that. It's a lot going on. So there was just a lot, and it was just piling. And then I finally just put my scarf on. I wrapped my face around it. All you could see was my eyes, and I was just like, you know, trying to breathe through it, right? We, you know, messed up the train situation, so we're on a disability card on the train. But before that even happened, I paid for a bag of chips, and I handed him my money. And he did not want to hand me back my money. He put it on the thing and kind of just walked off. You know, so it's like, you know, I felt dismissed, right? I was just like, well, damn, you know, because I had my hand out for the change, and he just like put it on the counter and kind of just like walked off.
But we later found out that, you know, in India, men don't touch women like that unless it's your wife. So
yeah, so I'm learning all this now. Had I been informed, it would have
Had
been
we
a
done
little
our
bit-
research.
Internal temp is too hot in
really,
here.
I don't use the bathroom.
Okay, so when I filmed that, my camera was still overheating, and I was definitely, things got cut a little short. But as you can see, cultural differences are real, and it's important to be aware of that before you go. You know, you need the appropriate context, just the background, and you know, the more prep you can do, the more prepared you are before you leave for a trip, the better. So if you're planning a trip to India, I hope this helps give you the context you need. I've been to India several times and loved it. I love going, but it's definitely not for everybody. So I'll catch you in the next video.